Guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to share with you 5 simple tips that you can start applying today to help you improve faster, feel more confident when you climb, and just help you get started on the right foot when you start climbing. So bouldering is truly such an awesome sport. I mean, it's complex, it's dynamic, and I think it's one of the very few sports that actually fully engages your whole body and your mind. But it can also be a little bit intimidating if you're just starting out. As a beginner, there's so many things you have to learn, there's so many things you have to pay attention to. Sometimes it's hard to know exactly just how to get started. So the tips I'm about to share with you today are things that I wish I had known and paid more attention to when I first started climbing. So I've distilled a couple of things I've learned over the years, and these are what I think are the most important things when you first start climbing. So the first one is to really take your time when you're warming up. But when you're first starting out, the biggest limiting factors are probably going to be your forearms, your fingers, and your upper body, and it's really easy to tire those muscles out early. So when you start climbing things that are a little bit too hard, you tend to overcompensate by pulling a little bit too hard, and this leads to that pumped feeling that you get in your arms, or it feels like you just can't really grab anything anymore. So the best way to counteract is to make sure that you do a proper warm-up. So try to climb a lot of very easy problems. Don't start rushing into the harder problems like too early on. As you climb more and more, you'll start to get a feel of exactly how your body feels before you get to that pumped out feeling. And so during the first 15-20 minutes or so of your climbing, you want to slowly work your way up to whatever projects that you're working on. And you do this by just doing a lot of easy climbs. If you happen to have like a training wall at your gym, it's a good way to warm up your muscles without tiring out your arms too quickly. So during the warm-up, when you're working on problems, if you start to feel that pump build up in your arms, you should just drop down and maybe take a couple minutes of rest, because the worst thing that can happen to you when you're climbing in your sessions is that you start having that big muscle pump, and that's usually when most people have to end their sessions, is when they have that pump and they just really can't climb anymore. And so I can't stress enough how much taking a proper warm-up can help with this. So one more reason that you should really focus on the warm-up is as you start to climb harder and harder, you really have to start paying attention to what your body is telling you. And the best time to do that is actually during the warm-up. When you're starting to climb on these easy climbs, you get a feel of just how recovered your body is from your previous workouts, because if you don't, this is where you're likely to start getting injured, because if you don't pay attention to the signals that your body is sending you, like when you really need to rest, it's easy to overwork it. And the worst thing that can happen to you when you're trying to get better at climbing is getting injured, because injuries can knock you out for a couple weeks, and it just really sucks to not be able to climb. So getting good at warm-ups and getting in tune with your body at the beginning of a session really helps you to start building that good relationship with your body and your recovery. So tip number 2 is probably one that you're more familiar with, and it's something that I always try to advise beginner climbers to do, and that is to pay a lot more attention to your feet rather than your upper body. So beginners tend to focus way too much on their arms and upper body because you feel like climbing is a sport where you have to really use your hands to climb. And so the idea is you want to try to offload as much weight as possible from your upper body onto your legs, because your legs is actually where your largest muscles are. So the more that you can place the load onto the larger muscles, the more that you'll actually be able to climb, and the longer that you'll actually be able to climb. So the reason that you want to be able to climb as much as possible is that when you're first starting out, the most important thing is that you get as much mileage as possible. So you want to try to climb as many problems in as many different varieties as possible. So the more that you're able to take the load off your arms, the more that you're able to load onto your legs, the more that you'll be able to climb, and the faster that you'll be able to improve. So if you'd like some drills to help you really work on your footwork, please check out my other video on beginner climbing footwork. There's a couple of drills in there that really helped me develop good footwork when I was first starting out. The third tip is sort of related to using more of your feet, but it's a kind of an important visualization when you're climbing, and it's to think of your arms as more of stabilizers rather than pullers. So if you imagine this water bottle as a hold, as you engage the hold, you want to think of your hand as a hook rather than something that you're trying to pull up with, and this kind of naturally just engages your foot more. As you move between holds, you can think of your movements as throwing a hook onto a hold, and after you've hooked onto that hold, you're using your feet and the rest of your lower body to try to move onto the next position. So I think this visualization helped me a lot when I first started climbing. Another way that some people like to visualize this is climbing with straight hands. I don't like this quite as much because I see some people take it a little bit too far, where they start climbing like a zombie. It's not the best way to climb, it's not the most efficient way to climb. I think it's important to have straight arms after you've reached the hold, but you shouldn't be going up the wall like a zombie. So I like to think of it as more of like stabilizers and hooks rather than keeping your arms always straight. So just play around with that, and I'll be making a video a little bit in the future about like how this applies to overhangs and different situations, because there are situations where you want to have more of bent arms, but in general it's better to have straight arms and have the load fall onto the lower part of your body. So tip number 4, again, as a beginner, the most important thing is for you to try as many different types of boulder problems as possible. The more mileage that you can get on walls, the more climbs that you can do, the more that you can just start building a repertoire of moves and techniques. And it's tempting in the beginning to find a certain type of problem that you're good at and just want to stick to that same type of problem, but this is really gonna like hinder your development and your growth. So some people really hate overhangs, especially in the beginning, so they tend to climb just vertical and slab walls. And while this is good for building technique, some of the finger strength and upper body strengths that you can get are actually from climbing the overhang. So and also there are techniques that sort of cross over between the two, so things that you work on when you climb overhang can actually just naturally make you better at slab walls and vertical walls, and vice versa too. So generally slab and vertical walls are more footwork involved, and that translates pretty well over into overhangs as well. So again, try to just do as many different types of problems as possible, and it's really going to help you become a more well-rounded climber. And tip number 5 is to just be curious and actually just have fun. I think a lot of beginners try to take it a little bit too seriously, and I don't blame them. I think I was one of those at the start because like I just wanted to get really, really good, right? And so I tend to go and start climbing really hard climbs, and I started taking it a little bit too seriously. Like I just wanted to maximize everything that I could to try to get as good as I could. But I think, you know, climbing is a long-term endeavor if you really love the sport, and I think one of the things that helped me become so dedicated and so passionate is in the early days, even though I was striving to be good, I actually just really let myself have fun and really just enjoy climbing and all the things that come with climbing. So like being with friends, working on problems together, not always having to try to be the best, and just kind of soak in that whole climbing environment and culture. So I think before you start optimizing and trying to figure out the best way to train, the best way to structure your sessions, you just want to develop this love and this passion for the sport, and that's going to take you a lot further. If you feel like you already love the sport and you still want to figure out the best way you can maximize your first year of climbing, be sure to check out this other video where I talk about some mental strategies and how you can approach learning for maximum improvement. If you have found this helpful, please let me know by liking this video and consider subscribing for more videos like this one. If there are other things you would like me to cover in this channel, please let me know in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.